Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the She Wrote This Part podcast. I am Adriana. Guess you could say I am the host of the podcast, although that doesn't feel right. I'm so happy you're here. I hope you're having a good week whenever you're listening to this. Today I'm recording this and it's a Saturday and it is sunny before it's going to rain for the next few days. So I guess now in hindsight, I probably should have taken advantage of the sun. Um, but we're here. We're spending this time together, and I'm happy about that. So, just gonna get right to it. I was putting together this episode, and I was trying to think about like how to start it with what I want to say. And I started thinking about those home renovation shows where someone buys a house and they're like, oh, we just need to update the kitchen. Maybe we'll open up the living room a little bit. It'll be a quick little project. And then they pull up one piece of flooring and then there's water damage. So then they fix the water damage, but then they find a load bearing wall where there shouldn't be one. So then they deal with that. And then the contractor finds the electrical is completely out of code. And then suddenly they're 6 months in and they're now living in a hotel and they're $40,000 over budget in the kitchen. The original kitchen, which was the whole reason that they started the renovations, is still not done. And as the viewer, you're sitting on your couch and you're like, oh, good Lord, like just move in, just live in the house already, right? I was thinking about this and I think about how that is kind of what happens to people in the personal development world because there's a version of doing the work that starts to look like the renovation that never ends, where you go in to fix one thing, maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's people pleasing, maybe it's just this vague feeling that something is off and you find something to work on. So you work on it and then you find the next thing and then you work on that thing and then you find the next thing and then somewhere in the cycle actually living your life becomes secondary to optimizing it. So you're not in the house, you're just always renovating the house. And that's what I'm going to call the healing vortex. I don't think that this gets talked about enough in the personal development space. And honestly, that's probably because it's an indictment of the personal development space, if I'm being honest. So we'll see how this goes. I think it's a really important topic, and I'm gonna be honest. I haven't found anything or anyone talking about this, and I see it all of the time in my clients. So I think it's an important conversation that needs to be had. And I'm calling it a vortex specifically because, like a vortex, once you're in it, everything kind of pulls you deeper. And it's sneaky because it looks like growth from the outside. It feels like growth from the inside. You're reading the books and you're doing the journaling and you're in therapy and maybe you're meditating and you're doing the breath work and you've done the courses and so many courses and you're very aware of your patterns, like really freaking aware. You could probably write a dissertation on your attachment style at this point, and yet something isn't moving, or it moves a little bit and then you find the next thing to work on and then you work on that thing and then you find the next thing and then at some point you look up and you realize that your whole life has kind of become a project. Like you're less a person living her life and more a person optimizing herself in order to live her life someday when you've figured out enough. And again, we don't realize we're doing this, right? One, we're not sitting there being like, "Ooh, I want to enter the healing vortex right now." But we also don't realize that it's happening because it feels like growth. We're just like, "Oh, there's this other thing and oh, okay, I've got to figure that out." And you know what I see a lot in my clients is that a sure sign to me that like they're either in this healing vortex or they're about to be in the healing vortex is when they start clocking all of the things that they want to fix and almost like a to-do list of like personal development. They're like, "Ooh, all right, got to fix that and got to fix that and got to fix that." That is the sign that I know someone is circling around this and they're about to get sucked into the vortex. So that's the healing vortex. And I want to be really clear that if you're in it, there is a very specific reason you fell into it. And if you know my work, you know I'm all about shedding shame. Like everything that you do, every decision you make is coming from somewhere. So there's no need to feel shame. It's just identifying what led to that decision to get there. And it's not your fault. It is completely the personal development space's fault. And it also has a subconscious link to it. So I want to get into this because what I really, 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 really want for you and what I know is true for you is that healing is supposed to be in service of your life. It was never supposed to be in replace of it. And somewhere along the line, a lot of us got those things completely backwards and nobody told us. Nobody told us what we were doing. Nobody told us that we took it a little bit too far. And we were actually even sold to go in that direction. So we just kept going because we thought that that's what we were supposed to be doing. So let's talk about why this happens and more importantly, how you get out of it. So we'll get to that part. But first, what this actually looks like, I want to paint a picture of what life inside the healing vortex actually looks like because I think a lot of people are in it and they don't know it, kind of like I said, or they know something feels off, but they can't quite name it. A lot of times, clients feel tired. They're exhausted by the work. They're like, oh, one more, what's another thing? And that's usually when they're already in it, but I know that they're about to slide into it. Like I said, again, they're like clocking, they're like taking note. They're like, oh, gotta work on that and gotta work on that. I'm very upfront with my clients of like, no, the intention is not to make a to-do list of all of the things you need to heal about yourself. The intention is to live your life, and when something comes up that is stopping you from moving forward in the ways that you want to, then those are the things that you're like, okay, something is here. We don't need to keep a running list of things. And I'm just actually remembering now that like I remember taking some sort of course or something online, and they did actually, now a couple are coming to me where they actually did say to write a list of all of the things that you wanted to overcome. And it's all good intention. It's not like they're trying to, I don't know, make you go down the healing vortex road. But I think in hindsight, I think that it ends up being really problematic. So anyway, tangent. But a lot of people that are in it, they don't know it and they know something feels off, but they can't quite name it. So, what it looks like, back to painting the picture of what the healing vortex looks like. Typically, what I see is that you're someone who has done a lot of work on yourself, like genuinely, you've read the books, you've probably got a therapy copay that your bank account knows by name. Your entire Instagram and TikTok feed is self help advice, and you've been following it for so long, you can kind of like finish their sentences. You have the breathing apps and the habit apps, and you have the journaling apps and the meditating apps, and you know your triggers and your patterns, and you've done the past life regressions, and you've got dove into spirituality and your enneagram and your human design and maybe a couple astrology deep dives. And there's no judgment in any of this. You're just really aware. You're really, really aware. And awareness is good. Awareness is genuinely very important. We can't get anywhere on our journey without the awareness. So the awareness isn't the problem. But what nobody talks about is that awareness without the right tool to actually change things doesn't set you free. It just means that you get to watch yourself do the thing you don't want to do in high definition. You see yourself spiral and you go, oh, there's that attachment problem. You see yourself and you go, oh, there's that anxious attachment pattern, and then you spiral anyway. Or you recognize in the moment, you're like, oh gosh, I'm people pleasing right now. And you do it anyway. You know intellectually, completely, that your reaction to that situation was disproportionate to what was actually happening. And that knowing changes almost nothing about what happens the next time. So you're aware and you know what you're doing, but in the moment, you can't get yourself to stop. And that's not a you problem. That's actually just awareness without subconscious reprogramming. And that's what that looks like, awareness without subconscious reprogramming. And I have a whole thing to say about that in a minute. But first, I want to start here for a second because what happens when you're aware of everything and not changing or nothing is changing is that you start to look for more things to work on. you figure, okay, maybe I just haven't hit the right thing yet. Maybe there's a deeper layer. Maybe I need a different modality. Maybe I need a different therapist. Maybe I need a different framework. So you find more work to do. You go back in, and this is where it becomes a vortex. The more you dig, the more you find, because that's just how inner work goes. There is always more. The well doesn't have a bottom. And underneath all of that digging is usually this quiet belief that's running the show. If I can just get to the actual root of this, then I can feel better and finally live my life. Like your real life is waiting for you on the other side of enough healing. Like there's a finish line somewhere, and once you cross it, you get to just be a person, doing person things without the constant internal audit. And I think about this sometimes with people who do big home clean outs, like, the very, like, the Marie Kondo, every item must spark joy type of thing. And sometimes they get so deep into the process of organizing their home, that room, that they forget that they were doing it so that they can enjoy their home more. They're not living in the house, they're organizing the closets again because the guest room isn't quite right. Your life was never meant to be a project you finish before you get to live it. And that's what the healing vortex quietly convinces you of, that you're not ready yet, that there is more to fix, that living fully is the reward for enough work, not just the thing you're allowed to do right now. So the question is, why does this happen? Because it's not random, and it's not because of you. You're not doing something wrong. There's actually a really specific mechanism underneath this. And once I explain it, I think it's going to make a lot of things click. And again, it's going to shed that shame if you are starting to feel shame of like, oh my God, how did I get into this place? Again, everything that we do, all of the decisions we make can be explained when we learn about the subconscious. So I'm going to get into it. The very thing that I think is missing about or in almost every conversation about healing or personal development is this. And once I say it, you might feel a little bit annoyed, not at me, hopefully, but at the fact that nobody said this to you sooner. Your mind has two parts. And if you've been in my world long enough, I have spoken about this many times. You have your conscious mind, and that's the part that's listening to this podcast right now, the part that sends intentions, the part that reads the self-help book and goes, wow, that really resonated. I think I need to work on that. And then you've got your subconscious mind, which is running basically everything else. Your automatic responses, your emotional reactions, your default patterns, the way you show up in relationships before you even had a chance to think about it. And here's the split. Your conscious mind accounts for about 12% of your total mental processing. Your subconscious is running the other 88%. 88%. So when you are journaling and reading and going to therapy, doing all of the things, you are doing incredible work on the 12% of your mind. You're becoming very, very well informed in the 12%. You have completely optimized that 12%. But then the 88% is just in the back, and it's like, okay, cool. Happy for you, but I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And this isn't throwing shame at journaling or therapy, because I genuinely think they are very crucial tools. We need them. So this is not shade at any sort of modality. It's just the fact that there is a missing piece in the conversation that is causing people to feel like they are a never-ending project, and that they'll never get to the place that they want to live or they want to be, and they'll never get to the life that they want to live because there's always more layers to unpack, and that simply is not true. It's just that we are not communicating. We're not talking about the missing piece that needs to come into play along with the therapy work, along with the journaling work. Because here's what those tools, those modalities can't do. They cannot update your subconscious programming, because the subconscious doesn't learn the way that your conscious mind learns. It doesn't read a reframe and go, oh, that's a good point, I'm going to update my file now. It would be awesome if it did, but it just doesn't work that way. It doesn't respond to logic or insight or even like really beautiful, well-articulated breakthroughs. The subconscious updates through repetition, through emotion, through specific kinds of direct access to the subconscious. And this is a whole other conversation, but that's the short version. So, what happens when you spend years doing conscious level work on a subconscious level pattern is that you get really freaking good at describing the pattern. You understand where it came from. You can trace it back to childhood. You can name the belief underneath it. You can explain it to your friends in a way that makes them go, oh, wow, that's so insightful. And then you go home and then you do the pattern again. And I call this informed suffering. And I mean that genuinely. It really is a specific kind of pain to know exactly what you're doing and feel completely unable to stop it because you've been told that awareness is the answer, that insight is the thing that changes you. And when that insight doesn't change you, the only conclusion that makes sense is that something must be wrong with you, that you haven't gone deep enough yet, that there must be something you're missing. So you go looking for more. You go looking for more modalities, more frameworks, more root causes. You build this incredibly sophisticated understanding of yourself and your patterns, and then none of it translates into actually living differently because you've been working in the wrong part of your mind this whole time. You've been working in the 12%. And that is why the healing vortex exists. Not because healing doesn't work, not because you're broken or because you haven't gotten deep enough yet, but because most of what gets called healing, most of what gets sold as healing is symptom management. It's working on the output of the subconscious programming, not the programming itself. And when you manage symptoms without changing the source, the symptoms just keep coming. So you keep working on them, and then the vortex keeps spinning. It's a little bit of like, so, when your house is cold and instead of fixing the heat, you just keep buying more blankets. And the blankets work, kind of, right? Like, you put a blanket on and you are warm when you're underneath it, but then the second you get up, you're cold again. And imagine if like you were like, oh, the solution is more blankets. So then you get more blankets and you get warm when you're under the blankets still, but then you get up and you're still cold. And you got so many blankets at this point that managing the blankets has become its own problem or its own project. And somewhere in your mind, you're starting to wonder if maybe you're just someone who runs cold. Maybe this is just how it is for you. Maybe other people's houses are just warmer and you have to accept that yours isn't. The heat works, you just haven't been pointed at the thermostat. That's essentially what's happening, is that you're treating the symptoms and it kind of does work. But then more symptoms come and more symptoms come and more symptoms come. And then you assume it's you. And then you blame yourself and then you feel shameful and then you feel like, oh my gosh, I guess I'm not the type of person that can have that relationship. I guess I'm not the type of person that can have my own business, whatever it is. You start blaming yourself when really you've just been buying more blankets instead of going to the thermostat. You've been treating more symptoms instead of going to the subconscious root cause. And so I want you to actually let what I'm about to say really sink in because I think it's the thing that will change everything when you really let yourself believe this. Your life was never meant to be a healing project. You were not put on this earth to heal as a lifestyle. Healing is supposed to be something you do in service of your life, not the thing that becomes your life while you wait to feel ready enough to actually live it. And I know that this can be a new concept for people, especially depending on like how your algorithm is. I remember there being a time when my algorithm was only healing and personal development, and you start to buy into this lifestyle of like, in order for me to be a spiritual person, I need to be in this state. I need to like critically think everything. I need to analyze everything. I need to like filter it through this personal development lens. And I remember it ends up feeding the cycle because like if that's all you're seeing online and all you're seeing is these people who claim that they're spiritual and they're living their life a certain way, you do start to believe that in order to be a spiritual or healed person, your life has to go a certain way. And I remember feeling so much, I don't know why I want to say the word dissonance. I don't even really know what that means. I'm going to look that up right now. Lack of harmony. I mean, kind of. It kind of works. I remember feeling so much resistance. That's probably a better word. Um, Towards this idea of like a healed life because I thought that it meant that I have to like, I don't know, spend time at home and spend time in meditation and go on retreats. And I remember feeling like so much resistance towards that because I was like, that doesn't feel right to me. Like I don't want to spend my time doing that. What I felt like was I felt like I was losing touch with reality. Like I wasn't able to connect with people anymore. Connect with someone who wasn't doing healing work or in the personal development space. I was like, I feel like we're just like living on different, I don't know, universes. And I felt more disconnected from people and from the world. And I was like, this feels a little backwards because I started to go down that path and I was like, okay, if everything I'm seeing is saying like this is what the healed life should look like, then maybe they're right. Maybe I do need to do those things. And I remember I just like was cutting out all of the joy in my life. And I was cutting out people who were genuinely fine people and good friends because they weren't in this same mental space as me. And I remember feeling like I my life was getting more small and I was like, I don't think I'm happier like this. And thankfully I ended up meeting some people who were able to show me that that's not what it is. Um, and it really did shape my opinion and my thinking about how I see healing now. And it really is how I embody my life now as a person who enjoys doing personal development and growth work on herself, but really does enjoy being a human and being and living and enjoying mundane stuff and simple stuff and surface level stuff. I think that there's a fear of of liking and enjoying surface level things when you're so far into this like healing vortex. You're like as if like the surface level stuff is shameful, but the surface level stuff is what makes us feel connected to the world, to people, to our family, our friends. And if anything you're doing in your healing journey and your personal development growth journey, if anything you're doing is making you feel more disconnected from the people you love, then you need to fact check or you need to that's a red flag to me. You need to question that because the purpose of this work once again is not to make your life smaller. It's to make your life bigger, to make your life more full, to make your life more exciting, whatever that looks like for you, bringing yourself more joy, feeling more open, more flexible. And if you're going down a path on the healing journey that is making you want to close off from life, from society, then I think that that's worth looking at and worth questioning. So, long-winded way of saying that healing is supposed to be something you do in service of your life, not the thing that becomes your life while you're waiting to feel ready enough to actually live it. And I think somewhere along the way, the personal development world kind of sold us this idea that the more you work on yourself, the more deserving you become of a good life. Like there's this equation, effort in, freedom out. And if you're not free yet, you just haven't put in enough effort. So you put in more. And then the equation never actually balances because it was never actually an equation. It was just a story. You don't have to earn your way to a life you actually want to be living. The work was always supposed to get you there, not keep you from it. So, what actually gets you out? What does the exit actually look like? Because I don't want to just name the thing and leave you there. That feels mean and also feels kind of on brand for the internet, but we're not doing that today. The exit is subconscious work. And I don't mean that as a vague woo adjacent concept. I mean it very specifically. I mean going to the level where the pattern actually lives and updating the programming there directly instead of just describing it from the outside. Because when you work at the subconscious level, something different happens. Things start shifting that you didn't even consciously target. You stop having to white knuckle your way through situations that used to hijack you. Your default responses start to change, not because you reminded yourself to respond differently, but because the thing that was generating the response is actually different now. You don't have to manage the output anymore because the source has changed. And I want to show you why the exit is subconscious work. I want you to actually understand the mechanism so that it clicks. So if we back up for a second and we think about, okay, what is actually fueling the healing vortex? It's not that you have too many patterns or too much trauma or too much to work through. It's that your subconscious is still running a program, and that program is generating anxiety or emotional reactivity or people pleasing or whatever your version of it is. And your conscious mind knows about it. Your conscious mind has done so much work on it, but the subconscious is still running the same file. So the output keeps coming. And because the output keeps coming, you keep going looking for more things to fix. So that's the loop. That's what keeps the vortex spinning. So what happens when you actually update the subconscious programming is that the output changes. Not because you are managing it better, but because the thing that was generating it is different now. And when the output changes, something really, really cool and interesting happens is that you stop needing to seek for things. The hunger for the next book, the next modality, the next deeper root, the next thing that might finally be the thing quiets down. Not because you gave up or that you're avoiding it, but because what was fueling that desire is gone. Like, I'll give you an example. Say, underneath your anxiety, there's a subconscious programming running that says, I'm not safe unless I'm in control. Your conscious mind knows this because you journaled about it. Maybe your therapist is the one who brought this to light for you. And so maybe you've even tracked it back to exactly where it's coming from so you can talk about it. You're actively working on not needing to control so much. And yet, every time something feels uncertain, your nervous system still fires every time because your subconscious is still reading from that same file. It doesn't know that you did the journaling. It missed the therapy session. It's just running its program. So you keep thinking you need more therapy around control. You find another book on anxiety, on uncertainty. You try somatic work. You do a past life regression thinking maybe it's coming from ancestral trauma. And now you're feeding the vortex. But when you update that program at the subconscious level, when you go in and actually change what the subconscious believes about safety, you don't have to manage the anxiety response anymore. Because the thing that was triggering it isn't triggering it the same way. The situation that used to send you into a spiral just doesn't have the same charge. And that's not you white knuckling it or reminding yourself to breathe. That's the pattern actually being different. And that is what getting out of the healing vortex actually feels like. Not some magical arrival at a fully healed, perfectly optimized version of yourself, because again, she sounds exhausting, but actual movement, momentum. The thing that was keeping you in the loop, that was making healing feel like a lifestyle you couldn't exit, starts to dissolve. Because you're not just describing the pattern anymore, you changed it. And this is exactly why I built the anxiety shift. Dissolving the subconscious root causes that are leading you to enter the healing vortex in the first place. And I want to be really specific here for a second because I know some of you are out there hearing the word anxiety and thinking, okay, but my anxiety really isn't that bad. I'm mostly fine. And I just want to gently offer that the anxiety I'm talking about might not look like what you picture when you hear that word. I'm talking about the anxiety that shows up as needing to know how something is going to go before you can actually relax into it. The anxiety that makes rest feel vaguely wrong, like you should be doing something, like you haven't quite earned the downtime yet. The anxiety that lives in the back of your throat when you think someone might be disappointed in you or upset with you or quietly judging you. The anxiety that makes you shrink before you actually speak and use your voice, or you over-explain yourself, or you say yes when you meant to say no because the alternative felt too uncomfortable to sit with. The anxiety that makes you feel like you have to manage how you're perceived at all times, that makes uncertainty feel genuinely intolerable even when nothing is actually wrong, that has you scanning the room, scanning the conversation, scanning yourself, just constantly running a background check on whether everything is okay. That's the anxiety I'm talking about. And for a lot of people, it's so woven into the way they move through the world that it doesn't even register as anxiety anymore. It just feels like their personality. Like they're just being a thoughtful person, or they're being a responsible person, or someone who just cares a lot. And maybe some of it is that, but some of it is also subconscious programming that has been running for so long that it just starts to feel like you. So, if that is something you want to know more about, the link is in the show notes, and you can always DM me on Instagram to chat more about it. I would love to have you there. But that's basically all I've got for you today. I hope this one landed in the way that I intended, which is less, here's another thing to work on, and more of, oh, that's why. Because you are not broken. You were just pointed at the wrong thing, and now you're not. And at the end of the day, all I really want is I want you to live your freaking life. Like, I actually want you to genuinely live your life. I want you to be the woman who moves through her day without that constant low hum of something is off, or I should be doing more, or what do they think of me? I want you to sit down and do nothing and feel genuinely okay with it. I want you to say the thing in the room without editing yourself 3 times before it actually comes out. I want you to make the decision, take the trip, start the thing, have the conversation without spending 3 weeks in your head about it. I want you to be so present in your life, in your actual life, that the idea of spending another weekend deep in a personal development spiral just genuinely doesn't appeal to you anymore. Not because you gave up on yourself, but because you're too busy being yourself and being in your life and enjoying your life and the people that are in it and the life that you've created for yourself. And more than anything, I want you to see that that's possible for you. See that she's in there. See that she doesn't need more work to be done on her. She needs the programming that's been keeping her quiet to finally change. And I believe that to be true with every cell, muscle, and fiber in my being. And I am so determined to get you to believe that too. Because that's the life on the other side of this. I've seen it for myself, I've seen it for my clients, and I see it for you too. So that's all I have for you for today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next episode.